Good morning and a warm welcome to KBC News Check, the day being the 19th day of November 2024. We have a lot of ground to cover, and we've just witnessed the performance contracting signing by cabinet secretaries, their PSCs, and also the Attorney General in the presence of the head of state, President William Ruto, and his deputy, among a host of other government employees. Well, thank you indeed so much for joining us. My name is Ben Troy Njoe, and I will be engaging a panel of experts, but allow me to just break it down for you on what we'll be looking at. Of course, we'll be looking at the exercise that just concluded in State House, Nairobi, with a key word as no excuses, delays, or failures. Remember, the contracting coming just days after the clergy called out the government in regards to what they said is unfulfilled promises, extravagance, what have you. We'll be looking at that as well. The universities' dons are still on strike and no end in sight for that end of strike, but we are hopeful that they will come to an agreement, having said that the president has said that they will be looking at also, they're keenly looking at the education sector and especially on the university funding model. And of course, we'll be looking at the clergy that has called out the government and what the government can do to redeem itself. My name is Ben Troy Njoe, and Susan Thilku Anwangeshi, I beg your pardon, is our sign language interpreter on the bottom right of your screen. Allow me now to rope in my panel of experts, beginning with my immediate left. He is a university don as well. He's also a political scientist and also a governance and leadership expert. He's Oscar Omondi. Karibu sana, Oscar.
Karibu, asante sana, Bwana Troy. Thank you for having me here today.
Actually, we've never seen each other since what? Since we now have a new deputy president.
No, we've not had a discussion about, but it's only 18 days. He's been deputy for, I think, 18 or 19 days. And, you know, we had a lot of discussions following the court deliberations when the court cases were going on and the public participation were going on. Yeah. And speaking of public participation, there is also another public participation that is currently underway. We're talking about the new taxes that we are expecting that the government will be announcing very soon. And allow me to just mention very quickly the Public Finance Amendment Bill of 2024. We have also the Public Procurement and Disposal Act Amendment Bill of 2024, the Tax Procedures Amendment Bill of 2024, and last but not least, Tax Laws Amendment Bill 2024. And that is why a lot of Kenyans are talking about more or less like the reintroduction of the finance bill. But we'll be looking at that as well. Allow me also to rope in also another panelist that we're more than grateful for you to be here, Sami Kipkemboi Meli, who is a governance and leadership expert. And thank you so much for making time, sir.
Thank you very much.
Have you been? At least we've been able to dig in
yes,
a few things. Yes, the short rays are here.
Give us a scare,
yeah.
But we are doing well, thank you.
Gentlemen, karibuni sana.
Asante.
Very well. The good thing is that the performance contracting has been done when we were here, and we've been able to pick a few things. Allow me to just mention some of the things that the head of state has mentioned, and Nancy Okware has done a tremendous job in breaking it down for us. The head of state has talked about no excuses, no delays, no failures. The contracts are action plans for precise execution, and they should take personal responsibility. I think maybe we should start there on what he has told his lieutenants, Sami. Yes. Talking about there's no failure, no nothing, you should own up. You do remember there's a point, the last performance contracting, he said that when you find that I know a lot about your ministry, then there's a big issue. This time around we have a new form of government, the broad-based government. We didn't have this the last time they were signing the contracts. And also we didn't have a new deputy president. Remember, he was late in the other one. He was quite early on this one. I would like to pick your mind in regards to what the head of state has just talked about as an overview.
Oh, first, the cabinet secretaries today arrived on time. Yes. And like last time when they were rushing in and the head of state was speaking, the performance contracting is a good tool, especially to public servants and even in the private sector. In the private sector, it has worked so much and so well. We would want to see because what I'm getting right now, they are signing new performance contract, but have we been told the others that signed last time, what did they achieve? How did they fail in their areas? Because I'm sure there are some ministries that actually nothing has gone on. And therefore, there should be a yardstick whereby the president says, in this ministry, we had given you these targets 1, 2, 3, 4. You achieved 1, 2. What about the 3 and 4? How are we going to achieve this? It could end up being an exercise in futility, whereby it is just a national exercise that is done in State House every year, just for the cameras. But if you look at some ministries, there are a lot that has gone on. The Ministry of Education has really rescheduled their issues with CBC education. You see the exam cheating is being tamed seriously. The students being found with mobile phones, and you can see serious handling of that. You have seen the examinations being handled with a in a good way, better than before. We have seen the capitation for schools going on time, and like last year where we had issues. But he said that there were dispatch of the day. But now, I want to ask the president, because he has set up I would call it an ombudsman. It's actually a performance contracting monitoring body. Does it mean that this body is in charge of even the deputy president, because he runs like something looks like a ministry? Does it mean that this one is in charge of the prime cabinet secretary also? This person will be checking. Then if that is happening, where is this office domiciled? Is it in his ministry, in his office at State House or Harambee House, or where is it domiciled? And how are we going to get that reporting? Is it going to be a public reporting whereby they shame the ministries that are not doing well and praise the ones that are, you know, when you are giving a bouquet also you should be able to give bulbs to the others. So, but the country is headed towards recovery, because I'm sure we were in a big hole, and I'm wishing those cabinet secretaries well. With the new broad-based government, I think there is some sense of responsibility which is coming back. Unfortunately, the other day I would hear the cabinet secretary is still encouraging corruption. That if you are stealing 2 billion, now you steal half of it. No, we should say no, total. The Kenya actually should be a corruption-free zone in itself. So we want different ministries to give us their performance card, a report card, as they sign new performance contract. What is the report card? For example, the Ministry of Housing, the affordable houses, I was going through them. There are around 50 going on currently in different parts of the country. Which ones are complete, which ones are not complete, because this information is hidden from us. I don't know why. And they don't expect all of us to go online, because my grandmother may not go online to realize that there are houses being constructed. And how are they taming the propaganda that is being thrown left, right, and center on social media? Because also they should be able to counter the propaganda with facts, as they were doing the other day to the Catholic bishops. But I think the country is headed towards the right direction, especially when the church now has become another arm where it is holding the government accountable. But we don't want a back and forth. You promise this, then you go back 100. You promise us 10 steps, then you go 100 steps backward after giving us 10 steps. The other day he said cabinet secretaries and himself, even the government officials, will not participate in fundraising. But he went to Soweto and gave 5 million. How? He should walk the talk as the president, and also reduce the unnecessary things that he says. Yes? Even the fourth law of power says, don't say more than it is necessary. Let the different ministries run their show, tell us what they are doing, what they have failed to do, and the reasons why they didn't fail. Coming to the finance bill, the government needs to run, and we cannot keep on running on loans. The way you cannot keep on surviving on Fuliza and the other money lending organizations forever. You have to restructure as a government. But I hope this time round, the public participations, our views will be taken seriously. And again, we should avoid a situation whereby this is our nation, all of us, and we avoid a situation whereby we attack the whole thing and we want it down.
All right.
It's like
yes.
if our government succeeds, we succeed. If the price of unga has fallen from the 230 to now 93 in some shops, 100 in some shops, that is a win for all Kenyans. When the production goes high because of the fertilizer subsidy, it is a win for all of us because we will eat that grain that has come from the farm. We will use that fuel that the price has come lower. So let us, in Swahili they say, mgala muue na haki mpe. What they have done well, we congratulate them. But where they have gone wrong, like our roads in Nairobi City, there are potholes all over. Yes.
And we will be looking at that as well,
yes.
because there's something that Kenyans have really raised concerns in regards to how the government has been actualizing its agenda, and especially the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. Coming to you, Oscar, and I'll pick from where Melly has left in terms of the scorecard. Yes, indeed. Last year we saw the same exercise happen, and being a university don, I'm quite sure you know a lot about report cards. So as Melly has pointed out, let's first of all know exactly where we are as we enshrine and as we endeavor to actualize the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, as the president has cautioned his lieutenants.
First of all, you see, what is performance contracting? Performance contracting is a managerial tool. It's a managerial tool that is used for any organization success. That is the concept behind performance contracting. We just want success in any organization, be it private, be it government. The first person to come to bring in, you know, government is about service delivery. But we had a president in the US called Wilson Woodrow. It's Wilson Woodrow who came up with the idea of giving government a customer care desk. Seeing the public as clients, as customers, who needs to be given services. Before, we didn't have a customer care desk in government because we were just working for a civil service. Civil service was just plain. They were just doing work. But these ideas like performance contracting that we are signing today, it's borrowed from the private sector. You know, if you talk about public administration and private administration, the ideas are completely different. Private administration is motivated by profits. The reason why we have private administrations, and last time I told you that private administration is done, that course is done at business school, Lower Kabete if it is Nairobi University. But in Nairobi main campus, you do public administration and Kenya School of Government at Spring Valley. But what happens at public administration? What motivates public administrator is one thing: service delivery. They just want service delivered to the people. So these concepts are being borrowed from private administration, where we have a customer care desk in government. The judiciary will have a customer care week. The government have performance contracting because they are borrowing it from the private, how private organizations are run. And now performance contracting is a concept that is a managerial tool that is used for good and successive organizational structures. That is the concept here. This is where you get how the characteristics of performance, which have been mentioned by Melly, are things like feedbacks, reward. You can get in private, you can get bonuses at the end of the year based on how you perform. So what the president is saying, that we will have rewards for people who perform well. We will get one-on-one feedback, and we are able to get what we call performance improvement plan. I'll tell you, I think among the counties, Governor Kangata Irungu has a very elaborate performance contracting system that is trying to implement, which at least has a tool of reporting. What Melly is saying that, what is the difference between what performance contract was signed last year and this one? Probably this one doesn't have a very good reporting system. So that we get to know the feedback of what we did. But the president is saying that I've established a performance contracting office for efficiency. So why is he establishing that office? Because now it wants to churn out feedbacks. There's somebody on the check. I think the former CES for ICT, Elido among others, are in that established office because they want to put in a structure where there is like everyday reporting. You know that by this time limits for any project has to be there. You see, any project for it to work perfectly, there must be time frame that you know, or by end of the month we should have achieved P or C. If you're given a contract, for example, in the contract is documented that the contract will take, like, for example, 4 days. After 4 days, then we need to see 1, 2, 3. Whatever is talking about, like the project of the housing, you know, sometimes as Kenyans, we're also too fast. If those houses, if there's a complete house among the houses that we were doing because of the court cases and when the houses were started, if any house is complete by now, those houses will come down. I think they will not have been done to standard. Oh. Yeah, sometimes you need to just excuse government because they're doing story houses. Some of them are 7 floors up. Really, give it a break. The houses will be done. If they're being done now, I hope
that is ready.
Actually, there are some without maybe let's give credit where it's due. There are some houses that are complete under the affordable housing agenda. In as much as the controversy surrounding
there are 50, you know, the politics have been around this housing thing, and if there are 50 sites and they're being done, the only time I would want to start asking if the houses are complete is late next year. All the 50, like the 50 sites. But sometimes we are in a rush as Kenyans because we want to poke holes. You see, for example, the finance bill that we lost here. Troy, sometimes I feel bad about that finance bill because government now didn't have, but we lost it here. Kenyans don't watch whatever happens in Parliament. Kenyans don't really participate in those public participation things. But Kenyans watch Oscar and Troy and Meli because they rely on summarized analysis most of the time. Able to send their own people who are actually the operationalizing officers to TV stations like ours, they will not be able to explain because I myself, I will explain based on analysis on what I see and what I read. But there's somebody who was working through the documents all along until the final document that was there. Okay. So what we need to do with the current finance bill is that this person should start explaining and engaging the public, not just public participation that the 7 days, the public participation that is being done by the committee. Okay. I promise you
just kindly hold the thought because we really need to take a quick break, but we'll be right back. But when we come back, it's a good thing that you've raised that because there are 4 amendment bills in Parliament and the public participation is currently underway. And we'll also be trying to break down some of the things that Head of State has talked about. Yes, we're not going to lose them this time round. And also the Head of State has mentioned in terms of agriculture, affordable housing, and actually Treasury has been noted and told that would be and should be releasing funds in adequate time, something that we haven't seen in a while. But first things first, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Of course, we can engage us on our social media spaces as well. Welcome back and many thanks for keeping it KBC Channel 1. Just in case you joined us, this is News Check, where we endeavor to ensure that we keep you afloat with all the latest happening in the country in real time. And events that just completed about 30 or 40 minutes ago is in State House, the second year of performance contracting by the Head of State. In the company of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, the Deputy President, and also the CSS, and also the AG has also signed that performance contracting contract. And one thing is that we are breaking down what the Head of State has mentioned in regards to what we expect, because this is one of the issues that was raised by the clergy both yesterday and last week. And I have 2 gentlemen here to help us break it down. We have Oscar Omondi, and also we have Sami Meli. And of course, we'll also be looking at the clergy's voice. They have voiced their concerns and they should be listened to. And we will be wrapping it up with just a quick look at the varsity's dawn strike that continues to wreak havoc in terms of anyone who is trying to access higher education. And of course, the university funding model has also been queried by a number of Kenyans. Before we went for a break, we were looking at some of the things that we expect. In as much as we are signing this contract, the PSAs and the CSAs are signing this contract, we need to see from the last contract signing, performance signing, to now.
Yes.
We are for the next 1 year. What are some of the successes, some of the challenges?
You see, unfortunately, we don't get a chance to interrogate the documents or the project that needs to be done in these performance contracts. Apart from having a budget on projects that are supposed to be done, which we know that they were supposed to be done within 1 year, and sometimes I've always never supported 1 year budgets for states. I think we need to have 2 years or 3 years budgets, because most of the projects run for 3 years or 2 years. For example, if we're doing a road, the road runs for 3 years. So, you cannot come and do an evaluation of the same project within 1 year, because we have 1 year periodic budgets. Yeah. But the idea of performance contracting is not a standalone thing. It is on other things, including the budgeting process, and now even getting revenue. We can always measure how much money did we expect to collect in terms of revenue, and how much money were we able to collect in terms of that revenue, and what did that money do for the society. And in that, from whatever the bishops were talking about, although the president admits, I like sometimes when you come down and admit that there's a problem. I think from the president's speech, he admitted that we are in a difficult place. That one we all as Kenyans have to admit. We are in a difficult space, and now that if with all these levies and with these contributions that we are giving, salaries are coming down. Salaries are supposed to be naturally going up when there are a lot of deductions in the salaries. Unfortunately, again, when you have that salary, that money cannot buy. When you come to going to buy, then the cost of living goes up. And this is why Kenyans are complaining. But the president is optimistic that give us a break, a bit of time, then things can try to stabilize. Fuel has a bit, not so much, come down. Cost of unga has come down. The cost of electricity has not come down. It might go up because of the new bill, because they're putting something like tax on transformers. If you get tax on transformers, then again, it might affect the cost of electricity. But otherwise, if this structure is built within a period of time, if it can be continued and we have this performance contracting, what mainly asks, where is the office domiciled? The Office of Performance Contract. Government efficiency, where is it domiciled? If it is domiciled at the presidency, again, that one might be a good thing, because the buck stops with the president. He's the chief executive officer of the country, and the buck stops with him. Unfortunately, it might not only make that office very independent. If the office becomes an independent office, then it can check on everybody, including the deputy president, including the prime cabinet secretary, including members of parliament, including everybody who is in government. And it must be given funding also to be able to be all over the place, all over the country. To check on EACC, the cases that you took, all the cases that have been reported to you, how many have you conclusive? Because we have piles of cases. The judiciary has piles of cases that they're dealing with. They're saying there's problem of funding and all this. CDF, there are many projects that have not been implemented. You're talking about the roads in Nairobi. Do you have a budget of dealing with those roads? And how is that budget? Has it been done? What is it? How is the money that was allocated for those roads? What is it doing?
And who are also responsible for the roads? Because the governor has said some of these roads do not fall under his purview, under the urban roads.
Yesterday, I watched the clergy talk about some of not the clergy, Council of Governors. They threatened to down their tools. Then immediately the CS Finance comes and says, no. How do they want to down their tools? They've received all the monies, including October. They've not only received November. I know that the link. You remember that?
Actually, this brings me to my next question. And the head of state has said that Treasury should release funds in good time. Let's go back to Treasury. We have the stalemate between the Council of Governors and the government in terms of why the county funds, their share of equitable revenue, is being delayed for months. That is one. We have suppliers who have years without even having been paid. But the head of state has said that the Treasury should be disbursing funds in adequate time so that we may be able to actualize the development, and especially in his bottom-up economic transformation agenda. This is something that has been lacking for a while if you look at the country's landscape, and especially when it comes to counties.
Yes, the Cabinet Secretary of Treasury, Bonambadi, has been honest for the first time. When there are no funds, he says there are no funds. When the funds have been released, he says they have been released. The stalemate that we have between them, every time there is a case in anything or there is a query in anything, it delays the whole process. It delays the whole process. And therefore, if we look at perhaps the sources of income that they were expecting are still the 2023 sources, but the governors have budgeted, you know, their budgets was passed even before the national budget is passed. So perhaps they over-budgeted for what is there. Unfortunately, we are still using the 2023 finance bill, the 2023-2024 finance bill. So as we go forward, between 2024 to 2025 finance allocations, that's why it is necessary for the government to have a substantive budget that comes before the main budget, because perhaps there are shortfalls. And you know, in this country, you can't spend the money that has not been budgeted for. You can't spend money that has not been budgeted for. Number two, when the contractors have not been paid, it means money circulation in the country becomes an issue. If you see nowadays, I used to walk when I was in high school, I would pick 100 shilling note in town. Sometimes you pick 50. Nowadays, you just see 1 shilling. 1 shilling, the one that even shopkeepers reject whenever you give them. So it doesn't matter how many you have unless you take it to a bank. Nowadays, it is hard to get even a coin. Even at the lowest of them, you must work. And sometimes even the people, if you look at construction that is going on in the country, it's only in affordable houses that construction is going on, and the billionaires that we have around are still, but the common mwananchi is struggling. You see structures that are halfway done, they are left like that. It tells you something that perhaps the prioritizing paying foreign loans over local loans is killing this country. And therefore, the national treasury should balance, make sure that there is money circulating in the country, at the same time honor our loans. Some can be renegotiated for a future payment. You mustn't just deposit a whole 500 billion. 500 billion leaving the economy of Kenya, we must feel the shock. And therefore, as the president keeps reminding the Ministry of Treasury to release, the Ministry of Finance to release the money on time. It also depends on how much is collected. As Kenyans, we should also do due diligence and pay our taxes on time. Because the only people who are carrying this country from January to January are the salaried people. The rest of us who do private jobs, some evade paying taxes. And at the end of the day, we overburden a certain section of this country. If you look at the pay slip of somebody, for example, earning 80,000, he receives around 68 or 64,000 there. That is after payee has been taken. And then now the other deductions, you come to the other statutory deductions. By the end of the day, this person goes home with around 40. But the pay slip reads 80, and he has not even fed the family. He has not. So some of these people should be given relief. We should all carry the burden of this country. At the same time, promote nationhood and patriotism in this country. We shouldn't castigate institutions. When we fight an institution, like for example, you hear propaganda about national health or is not working, SHIF is not working. But I met a lady, we used to contribute for her. I asked her, for the last 2 months, you have not asked us to contribute. She said, I go to Kenyatta University Hospital and my dialysis is done for free. And I said, you mean SHA is working? He said, it has worked for me. I don't know for others. And also the hospitals that have refused. You know, there are some private hospitals that have refused to sign into that, the new authority, social health authority. They have refused to sign in because perhaps the government owes them some money. It is not... they are not hurting the president. It is the common mwananchi that is hurting. Yes. And also, as we work as civil servants, as the Don here has said, service delivery is key. Remember, as you deny me a service in the hospital, somebody else is being denied a service. A relative of yours is being denied a service, for example, perhaps on a roadside where he needs an ambulance to take him to the hospital because of an accident. When you delay to attend to a patient, so there is somebody else somewhere who is related to you. At the end of the day, if you are asking for that 2,000 for me to bribe you so that you serve me, there is somebody giving out from your family again. So it's a vicious circle that goes round and round and round. If we don't end this thing, perhaps, by one, do your job. That is what you are paid for. If you are in treasury, release the funds on time.
Yes.
Actually,
if you are the governor.
If I can add a bit of whatever Mel is talking about. What is the problem? Is SHA working or not working, for example? Because the propaganda there, even including the clergymen, they try to say it is not working. It is not true. It is not true. It is working. It has pilot problems. If you go to the village where I was last week in Siaya, but there are people who are admitting it worked for me.
It worked
Yes,
for me.
yes. I've actually met some people who say the same thing. But
me.
actually the main issue has been, why did we not actually pilot it still
That was
under
the problem.
NHIF
That's a big
before
problem.
shifting?
Yes.
And it's causing a lot of teething problems.
Yes, it is a teething problem.
Yes.
Yes. Because we didn't really, maybe it was hurriedly done.
Yes.
But it's a systematic problem, administrative problem. The concept there, if you look at the concept of what the SHA was supposed to address, they're very good ideas. But it has serious teething problem. Also in terms of communication. The government or people who are reacting at real time. For instance, if Troy goes to hospital and there should be somebody who can make that decision by a pen. That, okay, Troy, because yours is not working, we are fixing it. Meanwhile, go right.
Yeah, that's
addressing the yes.
Meanwhile, get the treatment because all these years, we can see all your details. Actually, until now, this SHA in charge of this point. For example, when I come to, because I'm not an employee here, I leave my, that's security check. Sometimes I don't come, I miss to carry my ID. That, let him, there's somebody in authority that's, because it's going to TV, that ID issue should not be a teething problem. So it's a teething problem. So we should address things. Going as clergy, as people of the cloth, to come and claim on national TV, SHA is not working, education funding of university is not working. It's like,
I think that's why the head of state said, actually told the clergy that they should be factual in as much as they are members of the society, they are people should be factual. And still on the matter of factual, I'm looking at the education sector, of which I'm quite sure quite some knowledge. We have a lot of teething problems. Also in the university. Then we went to the university. This 7 point. That has not been where you guys are back in. Has acknowledged the challenges that we have. Also, we have challenges in the grade 9. We also have the challenge. Has acknowledged that and has said that we should work around that to ensure that we are done and dusted with this. is letting him down, because if at all, a cabinet secretary has signed with the university dons, the side of the bargain, and the university dons have also signed, I believe the government, through the Ministry of Education, that what they agreed, and that is why the dons are in the streets.
Yeah, but you see, the issue why the dons are in the streets is also a long-time CBA, that part of it has been implemented, part of it has not been implemented. But again, the management of universities.
It also go down to it also go down in the report next year, the contracting. If at all we are going to found in the ministry. These are some of the things we were not able to actualize.
We just need radical decisions on, like government and universities. The universities should be independent in terms of administrative things, in terms of issues to do with dawn salaries and what have you. The universities should be independent. This means that even the CBAs should be management and the people who offer those services. But so when government directly with too many things at a go. So I think issues to do with the issues that are administrative, because government has accepted that you're going to give out this particular money, then do it. You know, just give it to class. You see, but the dons, if they were dealing with, and I'm telling you, the biggest problem is when we decided to get into people's salaries and we get these deductions, you will see many strikes. After dawn, there's the doctors, we just finished the doctor's strike, and they're not convinced that this is not, so we are going to have a doctor's strike next year. Again, the dawn strike, we had a dawn strike last year, and we have it this year, we're going to have it next year. So it's not new.
Yeah.
It will just be like that until some radical decisions are made to pull off some of this. You know, like for example, management of health. As many doctors go on strike, but we know that managers of health departments is a devolved system. And while the doctors on strike here, they just do it in solidarity. But sometimes, like when we had the previous government, I think when Isaac Ruto was Governor Bomet, you know, when the entire doctors used to go on strike, Bomet doctors never used to go on strike, because how we managed it was differently. Even now, other clinical officers or other doctors from other counties have not been paid, but others are paid, because it is devolved and it is even negotiating CBS becomes so difficult, for example, for the doctors' union, because this is a devolved. So there's no central, even the unions should be devolved, so that we don't have a secretary general at the center of a devolved service. We should have the chairman of Sia County Doctors Union who manages at that level. But if we have one, the national one, to manage this union at the national level, while it is a devolved system and they're all independent out of the 47 counties, then I see that approach being a bit skeptical. Again, issue to do with this, the clergy. You know, this guy, Godia, Haum, is my personal friend. I saw him yesterday on TV when he said that if we don't change the systems the way they are, we will declare a curse on you. I got threatened. I got scared. That, oh my goodness!
and even more serious, they talked about they could mobilize Kenyans to civil disobedience.
For civil disobedience,
in terms of paying taxes.
You see, who is to blame? The church has the responsibility to provide the moral capital to the society. When we lost the church, that they were not providing their responsibility. You know, I'll tell you an example. There were two friends who were working in hospital. They were all doctors. Then one of them resigned to become a pastor, and the other one remained to become a doctor. And he said, my friend, now I know you're going to be able to treat souls outside there as a pastor. Here, I'll remain to treat bodies because I'm a medical doctor. You get me right? Yeah. The church is supposed to treat souls. The church should be able to stand for the truth, even if tomorrow doesn't look so good. It is the church that are supposed, the clergy are supposed to do that. So when we have a society without values, without morals, without discipline, corrupt, the person who is supposed to provide that position it's the church. For example, what he's talking about, Ruto giving 5 million to Soweto Church. Maybe you don't know politics. How did they get to that level? They wanted that money.
Yes.
Yes. There was maybe a fundraising.
From what I'm reading is that they have declined that offer, including the money that the governor for Nairobi, Johnson Sakaja, from what I hear, Catholic bishops have returned the 2.8 million donations from the president, Sakaja, and warned against politicizing the church.
Ben Troy.
Yes, I'm still on the same, Nelly. I would like us also to be quite objective. I'm looking at the church. The church in the country runs more schools and more hospitals.
Yes.
Yeah, the clergy. They run more schools and more hospitals than the government. So when they say SHA is not working as it should, when they're talking about the challenges that we have in the education sector, they are the people on the ground.
I would expect that if I was hearing from the catechist, but from the bishops, no. They are not in touch with the ground. Now, back to what we were discussing before I go there.
Yes.
Whenever a leader comes to a church, for example, he has been approached. It's not like the president just decided and said today, I'm going to Soweto. No. Some elders went, saw either the president as a personal assistant, or they approached the State House and they said, we want this, and why do you want the president to come? We have our children's a Sunday school class to be constructed, we need a bus, we need this. So the president did not give out of the blues. It is a list of the requirements that these people had asked for. So, but by the time the clergy gives a rebate on what had been given, they should have said even that day, there was a bishop there. Yes, there was somebody there, senior. You should have said, no, but President, not today.
In front of the
they were seated next to each other.
Very well, very well. Do you believe that the scathing attack by the clergy or the men of the cloth against the government were justified, the claims?
When I saw the statement that they were reading, one, whoever recited in that statement was out of touch with what is happening on the ground. He really, perhaps he got somebody who relied more on what is on social media than what is on the ground. Remember, our social media is run by Kenyans in diaspora. Majority of them. You would see even the ones inciting the Gen Z. They were not here. Some are in Israel, some are in Canada, some are elsewhere. Then you don't see them on the ground. The statement was out of touch, and even there's a priest who called me and asked me, what do you say about it? I told them, who recite on your statement? In as much as the church is a sponsor in most of the schools.
In your view, what the church actually outlined, and the ACK and the PCA yesterday affirmed that, you say they were out of touch, the statements were not justified?
There are others that were justified. For example, the continued promises by leaders, I don't want to say who, by leaders who keep promising, and in 6 months, in 3 months, by next year, by tomorrow.
That's how you manage.
That is not, no, you don't just give timelines. If you give timelines and you don't deliver, you put yourself in a corner. You put yourself in the red corner. And when you are hit, the clergy is coming back to hit on somebody who has put himself on a red corner. This come to the free space. The boxing space is big. Explain, this can be done. For example, we are doing SHA. By next year, we would have streamlined everything. We are doing piloting on some issues. We have teething problems, but please understand, this is how we are going to handle it. But if you don't do that, you put yourself in a very funny position. Yes?
That's how we manage these things, even families. What you do with your wife and kids, you keep the promise alive. Because as the head of the family, your expectation that I'm going to get, I'm Ben Troy, I'm looking for work, nitapata, nikipata taleta.
No, Oscar, you don't tell them.
I totally understand.
By today evening,
Oscar,
I bring you lollipops.
Remember
Then you don't appear with lollipops.
remember
What
Barack
will happen?
Obama's second, when he was going for second term, what was his slogan? Keep the promise alive. What William Ruto is doing is being optimistic and keeping the promise alive.
All right.
And sometimes,
trust me, it's
difficult,
not only
yes,
the
to
clergy who
achieve.
have talked about the promises, the unfulfilled promises. Not only the clergy.
The clergy, I will tell you again, because I've told you,
Yes.
even the guy who read the statement yesterday is a personal friend. And I told him, that guy, we are in moral wilderness.
We are in the moral wilderness as a state. So the state has no values. Who is supposed to provide that responsibility, to provide that space, is the clergy. Because we've ended up in a moral wilderness. Because the church and the clergy have not played their space, because they've jumped into the bandwagon to the cliches of the politicians. And I always want to remind the church, politics is a dirty game. Don't come here
and expect to go.
All right, let's go scot-free.
Yes. Being on the victim.
will.
All right, Oscar, in your view, from how much can the church justify in terms of all the issues that they raised? Because one, you've talked about you have to keep alive the promise. You have to keep promising. Every president, every leader promises. But the church has come out strong to say that, hey, we really need to see actions. We need to see boots on the ground. Are you saying that
and what did the president say today? And what did the president say today? That hold on, we're optimistic. We are in a bad situation, which I admit. But we are signing a performance contract. Things are going to change.
In your view, should they have raised those issues? Because remember, at the end of the day, they are still Kenyans.
No, but now,
should they have raised?
They should have raised. There's no problem of raising.
Somebody has said
democracy.
Somebody has said maybe because we saw them with the president. I remember. I think it was during the Gen Z protest. Yes. We saw them in State House. So maybe they should have made an appointment.
Made also an appointment again. But now you see, after raising these issues, Troy, those issues were responded to like immediately. All the ministers, all the CS came out and said like, okay, sure, they've raised, this is what we are doing. Well, on NHIF, the bills that were there, we've paid like 4 billion, we owe them like 3 billion. So the response to me might have not been satisfactory, but the fact that government came to respond, good enough. But when now they start coming to even rejecting some funding that has been given, it is now being done out of bad faith, to be honest. I think the bishops, even now, after saying those things, yes, the bitterness they have that they're showing, watakurudisha pesa. Unajua, you're going too far.
away from the financial, from the financial saga that's coming with it. But in your view, you feel that maybe they should have channeled their grievances in another way, as opposed to what they say. Because Melly has also mentioned that in some part of their speech, they seemed like they were not in touch with the ground.
Yeah, because whatever they were saying, when the response of the president, for example, was like, okay, you have to criticize us, we're okay with it, but be factual. Yeah, what was he saying? He was saying that the things you're talking about, you didn't do your research very well. It is just jumping into there's misinformation in it. There's also a lot of propagandist attacks on the system, because you didn't really do your research very well. Because the responses were like, okay, it's fine, but I mean, there's a myth about facts about some of these things that you're talking about. It's not the same way you are saying it. And now, in politics, the politicians is the dirty game, because politicians lie and it happens everywhere. You know, the president of the United States he lies a lot. You get me right? But the church, we expect the church to stand with the truth when everybody else cannot stand with the truth. That is why when we have conflict in burnt forest, where do people run to? They run to church. You get me right? When you have issues to do with your moral conflict of marriage and what have you, where do you run to? You run to church, to the clergy. But the clergy, as the way they're taking this discussion to an extent of this rejecting money, you see, they are not really giving the national conscience that they need. It is a responsibility. Yes, it is your responsibility, because you led the country to a moral wilderness. Remove us from where we are as the responsibility. It is your responsibility as the clergy, face the nation and say, who and so is corrupt. Don't just come when they've been having this fundraising all over. Yes. They've never taken care of understanding where is the source of funding. It's been all over. They've been taking that money. They've been taking the money, not questioning the source of the money. You know, you're just rejecting somebody's giving you a donation when you don't have to justify that the source of money was from a corrupt proceedings. That is also bad.
Because William Ruto and Governor Sakaja could have given money from their salary on good faith. It is not obvious that that was corrupt money. And the people of Soweto, who are members of that church, have a right to receive the money. It's not the bishops who sit in town. These were given to the people of Soweto, which is a slum. They were doing their church. It could have been done on good faith. But if you have justification and evidence that the money that you've received from Troy is proceeds of corruption, yes, you have a reason to reject that type of money. But somebody can give you personal donation.
All right.
If you request it again.
All right. Gentlemen, still on the same, the clergy also raised issues in regards to the tax regime that we have in the country. And still on the taxes, because the finance bill of 2024 was withdrawn, so there are 4 amendment bills that are geared towards achieving about 178 billion shillings. We have the Public Finance Amendment Bill of 2024. We have the Public Procurement and Disposal Amendment Bill, of 2024. We have the Tax Procedures Amendment Bill of 2024 and the Tax Laws Amendment Bill 2024. The church also raised the issues in regards to that. And also, yesterday, the public participation, the Finance Committee was in Isiolo and also Bungoma, and they picked a few views from Kenyans there. Yes, of course, we do not have a Public Participation Act, of which we are really looking forward to that. The church saying that the taxes should be also commensurate to the economy. Of course, we know very well that the economy has not been doing very well. And also, they should be introduced gradually. See, for the last 1 year, let's say, we have had 3 or 4 taxes that were not there previously.
One thing people should know is that the government runs on taxes. Government runs on taxes. And every government expenditure is pegged on a certain clause in the budget or in the finance bill. So perhaps the government has realized there's a need to do something, but there's no funding for that. And we need the funding to do this need. For example, perhaps the repair of those roads in Nairobi was not a priority then. Then right now, the rains have come, the potholes are here, and we need to repair it. We have to look for a way of funding it. So the government has to come in. Remember, there is also these clinical officers and nurses who have been confirmed on permanent and pensionable basis. Again, they need funding for that. There is something that was killed in the 2024-2025 finance bill that was on the teachers that were to be confirmed in January. And the government needs that funding. So the government has to find a way of getting that money. The other option you leave the government with is selling of government bonds and bills. The government also goes for foreign loans or local loans. Already, the local loans seem to be very expensive for the government. Looking at, they say they collect 2.2 trillion, 1.1 trillion goes into loans, and then 1.1 trillion remains to pay. 700 billion is used for recurrent expenditures. Then there's 400 billion going to counties, and then the national government has nothing to run other affairs with. So you see, the government has to look for ways of, if you look at the roads, for example, you find a road like Ngong Road, somewhere there, they say this is a product of the fuel levy you are paying, for example. There's a billboard showing that. That tells you the 7 shillings that is there as fuel levy is used in maintaining this road or was used to build this road. So the government has to look for a way of getting money. At the same time, in as much as there are more taxes, remember where we have come from an inflation of 9%. Right now we are at 2%. That is a tick in a checkbox of this Kenya Kwanza government, that they have been able to lower the inflation rate. So I'm also looking at perhaps there are contractors that need to be paid. They have done this job and need to be paid, and there's no funding in the government at the moment. So they have to come up with a bill. So every other time the government comes up with a bill, it is well-intentioned, but the follow-up to make sure that that money has done actually what it was intended for is where the problem is.
No, talking about the meaning well, Kenyans didn't see that in June when they demanded that the finance bill be withdrawn.
No,
and actually it was withdrawn. We cannot
No,
really
there was a
say
poor
that
public participation in that one.
actually, we talk about public
on
participation,
why, yes.
you know
Not
very
just
well.
poor
in the
public
country, it's
participation.
very,
Because
very
there
poor.
were taxes that were going to be lowered. There were tax amnesty that were going to be given for people who have defaulted in taxes.
No, what we
Unfortunately, we are being forced now to pay. because
Still on
that
what
was to
Melly
come.
has mentioned, and you also acknowledge that in the country, the public participation, we cannot say it's up to standards. We cannot say it's the best in the world. But in terms of public participation, I believe public participation should start with civic education first.
Yes.
Because right now, if you ask me, if you're maybe Kimani, the chair of the finance committee, asking me about tax procedures amendment bill, not many people will understand what it is. You
It
know?
is not-
And if you have Kenyans in a hall and telling them about this, I believe the first thing that should be done is the civic education before even the public participation. But unfortunately, we don't do that.
That is not what I think should be able to be done. This concept
You have to
of-
be educated about something before you even given the right to
yes,
maybe
Troy,
to air your
you
view.
are a broadcaster.
Yeah.
You are trained journalists, and that is your discipline. I'm a political scientist, and that is my discipline. There's somebody who is a tax practitioner, who understands tax, the concepts. What we are doing here, at the moment, what are we doing? We're doing public participation. Yes, some people are watching and trying to break down these things.
Yeah.
So when we discuss about the discussion behind public participation, we must discuss it in totality. That even though Kuria, Kuria, with this one, do you know how many counties it's going to? Only 6. Yeah, it's going to Bungoma, Isiolo, a few counties, and Nairobi. And within 7 days. So on 25th and 20th, is it on 25th? The deadline of this public participation is 29th of December.
Yes.
Yes.
Actually, next week.
It's next week.
Yes.
So it is done. You can't go to 47 counties. And now if you look at the standard of whatever issues that were raised in court, when Gachagwa's impeachment was going on, somebody went to court and said that the public participation that was done at the county level was not enough. And the court ordered it must be done until at the constituency level.
Yes.
The following day, Parliament rushed and pushed it to the constituency level. What about this public participation of this tax that is going to affect everybody, which is only done not only on 47 counties, only done on 6 counties out of
It's
47.
not even a quarter. of
Not
the
even
counties.
a quarter of it. And it's done hurriedly. And there are bundles of documents because these are 4 bills. Even Parliament itself will not get time to interrogate those documents. Not even the people. Even Parliament itself won't get time. Many parliamentarians, you meet them, they don't even understand those documents because they're also busy doing some other things. Now, what happens is we expect that experts, there are things that you don't even take to a referendum. For example, if in Switzerland or in Sweden or in South Africa or Kenya, you are asking about when you have to have gay rights and for something like same-sex marriage. If you take that one to a referendum, you lose it. You can't pick that thing to a referendum because the society knows that this is morally just wrong. Just vote no. You get me right?
Yes.
So there are particular issues that are supposed to be done by experts. Then when they're done by experts, when we break it down to the people, it's just kidogo so that the people can understand. But if we have to deal with all tax issues and you want to train people, it will take a whole year to train my grandmother in the village what is tax number 1. Because she doesn't understand, like for example, we have this top-up tax. Now they want to tax people who've registered companies out of the country, like for example, people who've registered Uber. Uber is not a Kenyan company.
It's not a Kenyan company.
It is registered somewhere in Panama. Where it is registered, that service is not taxable. In Kenya, that service is taxable. So they've decided to go and register it there, but do the work here. So the Kenyan government says that in our jurisdiction, this service is taxable. So we have to pick tax from you. But how do you pick tax from companies that are not registered in Kenya? You see, so they're trying to introduce that. I only don't know how they will going to execute it. You get me right? But still, some of these things are too technical for the people. Even if you take it for 10 days, 20 days, 2 weeks for the people to participate in that public participation. Not even Kimani, who is the chairman of that committee, is a tax expert on this. He also doesn't really understand, because it just brings it. If the people reject it, people rejecting what they don't know. That is why, even in this particular tax bill that we have, which I really don't want us to go in depth in it in terms of discussion, because sometimes we end up with a lot of misinformation. And for the public who are watching there, they say, if it is like that, let's reject it. The other tax that was rejected had things that were seriously wrong. Tax on bread, that one was bad. This vehicle moving tax, that if you have a vehicle that is moving, then you pay tax on it. You know, such issues were in that particular bill. That was rejected. The parliament tried to delete a lot of it. But by that time, the people's idea was already cut. Like, don't even edit that document. Yes, because you brought something that is completely off. This particular one, I've tried to see in it. There are others that are not very good, but there are others that are good also. At the end of the day, the government wants to raise 178 billion. For me, I've never seen that overtaxing or taxing the people so much is a solution to our problems. I always say, give tax incentives to manufacturers, to people producing agricultural products. Then there will be production. After there will be a lot of production, then you can tax. I will tell you for us.
Even increase the tax bracket.
You even increase the tax bracket. Then seal the loops on wastages and corruption. Then we are good to go. I will tell you for a fact, in my county, Siaya, where I come from, we've never had a KRA office. Yes, we've never had a KRA station office. The KRA has been centralized in Nairobi, and now so even the hardwares there have not been like working out on their books. So KRA last year established its office in Siaya. So they were only there for 1 month. Within 1 month, the officers who were stationed there had gone to all the businesses. They had set up systems in all the businesses. They were able to finish the work in 1 month. Otherwise, they didn't realize. Because when they went to some of these businesses, they were asking, hey, since we came to, there's nobody who is buying here. What is happening? And the businessmen will tell them, yes, that is the situation. You want to tax what we don't have. We must have a situation where if you want to tax me, if you come to check my books inside my business, there is people walking in and buying and selling, buying and selling, buying and selling, and their products coming in, so that there's business, so that you're able to tax. But if the economy is a system where you come to my business, say for 1 hour, there's no client who is coming to buy, and you're here as a KRA officer, want to tax. You want to tax nothing. Like, we've just left bones, there's no meat, but you still want to eat that bone. Get me right?
And empty the bone marrow.
Empty the bone marrow.
Because of the interest of time, there's something else that has come up in the last 1 week, and that is political intolerance. Even the clergy, they mentioned something in regards to the political temperatures that are always over 37 degrees, if you ask me. In our country, after one political cycle, we just prep for another and just get back to that. And the incidents I'm mentioning is the function that took place in Embu over the weekend, and there were political intolerance, and even UDA chairperson, that is Embu Governor Cecily Mbarire, mentioned that in regards to the political intolerance that we have. But let's be honest, it was good to see the former president, the current president, the former deputy, the current deputy, all sharing a podium.
Kenya has always been a political scene, an active volcano in politics. What I was watching and seeing is actually a repeat of between 2017 to 2022, whereby when the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, retired president, would stand and speak, you would hear quietness. Then when the deputy would come to speak, there were cheers.
Yes.
And I think the former president tolerated that all through. At some point, he could lose his cool, but he never lost his composure. The same thing applies to this president, because now the people have turned to be a darling of the former president, because actually they miss him. They miss funny speeches. Sometimes he would go off curve and crack a joke. Somebody would say, I love you. Say, I love you too. And you see, that was the president the people were used to. They are not used to the diplomat called President William Ruto, the one who speaks facts, cracks jokes a little bit, but continues with facts. At the same time, remember, that was the home turf again. That is part of the Murima, and the Murima guy was seated in the crowd,
yes,
inside there. So you would expect that. And where politicians are, I've been a politician myself, if you don't mobilize, you will always be jeered. You will not have anyone to cheer you. We usually go to functions. You see, to border riders approach you and they tell you, please don't go, give us fuel, we will escort you to the function. Then there is another group which you say, I have around 200 youth. If you fuel our mouths a little bit, we will be cheering from every corner. Perhaps the president has forgotten that because he's in power at the moment, but the others mobilized. Of course, mobilization is always there. You don't assume that those who are all Catholic congregants that were there. The people who were there, others have been mobilized, others have been ferried by lorries, others were ferried over the night, others lay ambush in a certain village, then in the morning they join the congregants. It is expected, especially when there is such an event, for example, the impeachment of the deputy president. The home always has a way of taking time to adjust to the new environment. Yeah, so I couldn't expect them, actually, personally, I couldn't expect them to cheer the president, though some cheered him, a few cheered him. But being the home turf of Rigathi Gachagua and Uhuru Kenyatta, you would expect their sons. Wanasema mcheza kwao hutuzwa. And perhaps kutuzwa kwa Uhuru Kenyatta na Rigathi Gachagua ilikuwa those cheers. So walikuwa wanacheza kwao. It's understandable.
Oscar, as we wrap up in a minute.
As we wrap up, it's very interesting because my bishop, who actually was reading this, the Anglican bishop who was reading this statement yesterday on behalf of the Anglican Church, Dr. Haung Godia, is watching and is, because I said that I was threatened, I was scared when he declared a curse upon corrupt leaders. And he threatened that we will declare a curse upon corrupt leaders. But he's telling me here, he's responding to me that the curse is on the corrupt who do not repent of their sins of corruption. So intentionally, he's trying to say that if those corrupt leaders can come and repent their sins, then they can withdraw that threat of curse upon these leaders. I think on issues of corruption, we should get aware where, because I said we are in moral wilderness. We are in wilderness and the church has the responsibility. And I think the church should be able to convince these corrupt leaders that, okay, you stole and blah, blah, blah. Own up and repent because your sins need to be forgiven. But you can only be forgiven your sins after repenting. Otherwise, the church should not be a conduit for corruption, because some of the monies that they receive are from these corrupt leaders, and a lot of money is being privileges through those systems. And this, now that the church has come out, they cannot go back to sleep. Come out and let's have a moral understanding of situations, how the country is in a bad shape, because we are in wilderness of values on how we do things. Our values are wrong, our deeds are wrong, our youth are going the wrong way. Alcoholism of our
we should be optimistic that
we should really be optimistic that these things are going to happen. But again, the church must take over their space that they're supposed to be responsible.
My director informs me that we're out of time. Maybe 10 seconds to wrap it up.
10 seconds is one. The church has always led us politically. The new constitution, Kina Reverend Timothy Njoya were there. So the church, they are doing their rightful role. They should correct us when we are wrong, but they should try to be factual in everything they give.
Well said. Sami Kipkemboi Meli, who is a political governor, governance expert. And just next to him, we have Oscar Omondi, a political scientist and also a university don. We were putting things into perspective and in regards to the state of the nation. Earlier on, we had that presidential event in regards to the productivity of government. In as much as we are looking in the future, we also need to be taking stock. Well said. Now I give the baton to my colleague and friend Khalid Abdullahi for Kurunzi Mashinani and Tamrini. But let's continue this conversation on social media. My name is Ben Troy and Lensa Odingo is our sign language interpreter for this program. Earlier on, we had Anne Wangeshi. Thank you so much. Do have yourself a blessed afternoon ahead.